All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into our very surprised mood episode of Soul of the Skull that we have for you here today. The Vikings, very surprisingly, took a victory on Monday Night Football tonight against the San Francisco 49ers. I'm not going to lie, I already forgot the final score. It was by 5 points.
22-17.
All right, there we go. It was 22-17 final score, pretty low scoring game, but we got a lot of things that we can talk about, a lot of things that went really well that we didn't think were going to go well. But yeah, I mean, we're going to go through our, per usual, we'll go through kind of our initial thoughts after the game. I'll start by saying it was a really, really good game, but I'm not going to get my hopes completely up yet. But after next week, we'll see, and I'll get into that in a little bit.
I mean, oh my God. This is the game we've been waiting for the Vikings to play all year. You know, they've seen flashes. They've had good quarters. They've had super terrible quarters. And this was kind of, they put it all together. I mean, after that turnover, you couldn't have really played more of a perfect first half against the 49ers, even giving up a touchdown. I mean, that's about as good as a half as the Vikings have played. Got a little shaky in the second half there, but you know, guys like Brandon Powell really stepped up for us, and in Jefferson's absence, that's what we were looking for, and the Vikings finally put together a complete game where they played well the entire game.
Yeah, and I got to give our receivers credit here, especially like Addison, Powell too, and then Hawkinson, who were able to reel us in. What I don't think the receivers had a single drop. I think Alexander Madison had a drop, but I don't think the receivers had any drops. So I got to give the Vikings credit for that. So
Less drops than you would have had, Big Lou, by far.
fair point. Fair point.
I think another big portion of the game was that the 49ers secondary was atrocious. So much holding, so much pass interference. They allowed Jordan Addison to get 123 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, you know, he's a backup wide receiver. Obviously, he's a wide receiver 2 on the team. But with Jefferson out, man, he really stepped up. Really just put himself out there. It's exactly what Jefferson did when Thielen first got injured, or I think he got COVID or something like that.
Yeah.
But really making his mark, solidifying himself as a possible O'Roy candidate right now.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
Yep. I gotta say, the Vikings' last play of the second quarter there, where he steals that interception there and houses it, that was insane. I thought that ball was intercepted, and you see Addison go in there and rip the ball from him and house it. That was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Kirk tried that in the first drive and ended up as a pick. He trusted his rookie, and it turned out to be a 60-yard touchdown. Yeah. But I think, you know, they got Cam Akers the ball a little bit more. He seemed to be a nice offset option to Madison. He had more touches, and the offense just seemed to, I don't know. I haven't been that excited in a while watching the Vikings. I have joy now, and I just realized we changed the title, so that made me smile.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna comment on that last point you had too. You felt joy. Like, for me, I mean, you guys have seen me. I tend to be a sad boy Viking fan, and you would all agree on that. But tonight, I actually enjoyed watching the whole game. There was a lot of good parts, and I was excited watching it unfold. And that, to me, doesn't happen super often because I just think about how awful they are. But tonight was not like that. So,
I mean, the first half was kind of like watching the Green Bay game in week 1 all over again. I mean, total domination. And coming into the game, I mean, it was an upset. We were 7-point dogs. You rarely see that in the NFL, and to come away with a win. Greg Joseph tried to sabotage it there, but I'm just great team win, and I never doubt my kicker anyway.
All right, so I brought up this statistic the last few weeks. It was time of possessions the Vikings had. The Vikings had 34 minutes and 56 seconds compared to the Niners 25 minutes and 4 seconds. That is crazy for them before they were averaging like 22 minutes. And they controlled this game from start to finish. So
I think another crazy thing is let's give Cam Bynum his props. 2 interceptions, a game sealer at the end.
And a forced fumble. Don't forget about the forced fumble. He forced
I thought that was Harrison Smith.
No, I think that was Bynum, but I can
Pretty sure it was
I
Bynum.
know. Okay.
It was a combination of the two. So you're both right.
Yeah.
It's an incredible game, and I don't know. I just can't get over the joy I'm feeling right now. But as Joel's mentioned, I don't want to get too high because we're going to fall face down when we play the Packers probably on Sunday. It feels like it. But
this feels like
for tonight, I can enjoy this one.
This dangerously feels like it could be another Bills game leading into Dallas.
I feel that. I feel that too.
This Packers team is nowhere near that Cowboys team last year, though. This is.
I'm talking about the emotional high going into that game.
But I mean, we have seen the Vikings in recent years do this where they, start off slow. 2020, 2021 comes into mind, and then they do put together a few wins. And they haven't taken that to the playoffs in those 2 years. But even last year, I mean, bounce back from a loss to the Eagles, all of a sudden you're 8-1 before that Dallas game. So, teams can get hot in the NFL, and it's not about how you start; it's about how you finish. And we're creeping up on the halfway point here in the season. So, I mean, who knows? The Vikings showed what they can do tonight, and they didn't even have their best receiver. So I'm going to be someone who's optimistic here and say that, if this team can show up week in and week out, I mean, there's a pretty damn good chance that we can still make a push for the playoffs. And with the Lions losing, I mean, who knows?
We still got to capitalize on our first drives. It can't end in a 3-play interception, setting your opposition up in good territory. We just got to get better at that. But overall, after that, it was a clean game.
Yep. There's been a turnover every first quarter so far, hasn't there?
Honestly.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I think you're right.
We turn over against the Bears in the first quarter. I don't even remember.
I thought we scored a touchdown.
Yeah, except at the third No,
that fumble.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah, because wasn't it the Josh Oliver first play of the game?
It was either that or that was the week before. One of the two.
That was the week before. It was the one where Kirk tried to get it out to Madison or Akers or whoever it was.
Oh,
and they kept fumbling over.
Oh, yeah.
That was dumb. That was dumb, Kirk. But tonight, we got big boy, primetime Kirk. Never doubt him on Monday night. Big Lou is right. It is Kirk over.
I think that's 6 in a row that Kirk has won in October now. He won all 4 last year, and then there's 2 this year already.
Mm-hmm. Well, we get
one big
more
thing that I want to point out about the Packers game upcoming, though, is Jair Alexander, right? Obviously, one of the top corners in the NFL, and we don't have our best receivers, so that's going to put a lot of heat on Jordan Addison because those two are going to be locked up the entire game, right? And so Hawkinson is really going to need to step up, which he did tonight. Brandon Powell and KJ Osborne are going to need to step up and make some plays. And we're going to have to put a run game together because if we can't pass the ball as well as we normally can, which we won't be able to because that Packers secondary is pretty good, we're going to have to be able to run the ball.
We're 7 weeks into the season, and I'm safe to say I think the Vikings are the only team without a rushing touchdown in the NFL.
I think it's them and one other team.
And have the Vikings was this their highest rushing game with 79 yards?
No. I think they ran for more against the...
Have they had a 100-yard rushing game yet?
I know Madison's hit like 90 at one point, so I think we've eclipsed over 100.
But is that 90 rushing yards or not between passing and rushing yards?
I think he had 90 rush yards. He had like
they
94.
Have to have had more than 74 though.
Yeah.
79 it was tonight.
Or whatever.
I don't know. I just think this run game continues to be. That's the one thing that I noticed watching tonight. It's still super inconsistent. I mean, Madison started the game with a great run, and I like the way they were rotating him, even getting Ty Chandler in there a bit. Although he didn't have a carry, he still caught some passes. So having that diversity in the backfield could be big to hopefully improving the run game a little more, continuing to feed Akers a little bit more, and as well as Madison. So hopefully the run game can get going. The pass block, the O-line, I thought did great tonight, especially in pass blocking. They didn't give up a sack. So run blocking could improve, but this line continues to get better and better by week.
I believe that double pass, wasn't that for Ty Chandler too?
That was for Ty Chandler.
That was a great play.
Question.
No, I don't agree with the pass interference on the back end of that.
That was a rough call, but the play was well executed and well called.
Yeah. I think on that, I think he has. I almost wonder if Addison had the option, if that corner bit. I think Addison might have had the option to throw it to Osborne because it looked like he was kind of trying to run a route and then started blocking. So I think that confusion, I believe, is what drew the flag like that. Again, I mean, it's a borderline call, and as you know, we're not going to agree with it, obviously, but who knows?
Well,
I mean,
we won't be running that. We won't be running that play ever again because we already used it once.
No, yeah, you put that on film.
I'm assuming that was Jordan Addison's probably first pass attempt ever in the NFL.
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah.
I bet.
First pass attempt for Jordan Addison.
Well, it won't even count, actually. So he's still at 0. I take that back.
Some point in time, he'll get another shot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Jefferson has 3 attempts in his career.
I think he's 2 for 3, isn't he? Or is
Something like that.
He's either 2 for 3 or 3 for 3.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Sorry, go ahead. Whoever was talking.
No, you got it.
Okay, because I was going to move on to something else.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just looking at the rushing stats across the league this year. The Vikings have more rushing yards than only one team in the NFL. I want to see if any of you guys can guess it, actually. Let's play a game here.
Would be the Cardinals.
Okay, that's Big Lou's guess. Sam, you got a guess?
Come back to me. I'm trying to go through bad rushing teams.
Okay.
I'm just thinking pass-happy teams.
I say the Chargers.
That's what I was going to say. I'll go. Let's see. The Bears actually have a decent rushing attack, so I don't think they're bottom.
They have Justin Fields. That counts, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, and Justin Fields in the game.
They had Justin Fields.
I think I'm gonna go the Chargers as well if that's allowed. That's what I was gonna guess, but then
I'm going with the Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins.
No, because they have Raheem Mostert.
They have the best rushing
I have
attack
watched
in the
like
NFL.
0 Dolphins games this year, but just knowing their offense and how they can put up 70, that means you can frickin' pass. I must say.
You know what's funny about that, Joel? The Dolphins have the best rushing offense in the NFL.
Yeah,
I'm done.
And you also have Raheem Mostert.
I already have my guess of the Cardinals, but is it the Chiefs?
No, the Chiefs.
It is not the Chiefs.
Okay.
It is not the Cardinals. It is not the Chargers.
And clearly not the
one
Dolphins.
and only Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh.
They have, so let's see, they have 419 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown, while the Vikings have 450 rushing yards and 0 rushing touchdown.
Who's the other team that doesn't have a rushing touchdown then?
If you guys
I lied.
want
It's
to blame
just
me,
it's just the Vikings.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So, Joel, just to put it into perspective, the Dolphins have 1,100 rushing yards this year, which is
You
the
guys can
most out
torment
of
me all
any
you want.
team.
I can take
And
it.
they have 15 rushing touchdowns, which is also the most out of any team.
Okay. If I'm not on Wednesday's episode, you'll know why. It's because I just embarrassed myself way too much there.
I think we should move on for Joel's
I'm thankful
sake.
no one is
I
watching
think
this
we
right
should.
Yeah. I doubt anyone's watching it.
Good. They better not see that. But I was going to say that if Jordan Addison's against Jair next week, if Jordan cooks him and then hits the gritty after, I would actually die in joy.
Oh, no,
if that happens.
Jair also did not play last week, so I don't know what his status is going to look like.
Oh, really?
Game with a full week's rest, but he did not play last week. I believe he was out with a back injury.
I want him to play because I want that to happen.
So, but I mean, yeah, and
Thank you.
when it comes to, I mean, the Packers, they're not a great team this year, and you know, so far Jordan Love has not been a great quarterback. I've watched a fair amount of Packers football this year. But yeah, the Packers are definitely a beatable team. They're worse than the 49ers, and if the Vikings can come in and play how they did tonight, I mean, frankly, they should have no issue with the Packers. But it is the Vikings, and it will probably be a one-score game, so we'll see how it plays out.
Mm-hmm. It's hard to believe that Jordan Addison is tied for second in the NFL with receiving touchdowns. He's got 6 now, I think. Yeah, he's got 6.
Tyreek Hill's got 7, right?
Yeah, he's got 6, and he's tied with Diggsy. So
Yeah.
good for him.
Yeah.
But no, I was so excited when he ripped that ball out of was it
Charvarius
Ward? Yeah, when he just stole that thing, I was like,
Yeah, he had Charvarius Ward's number all night, and even like
except
the
for
whole
the pick.
Except the first drive.
except the first drive. But after that, I mean,
Yeah.
just had his number. And,
Well, Charvarius Ward was also, every other play it was pass interference on him. So
Yeah, Addison had that out and up. If he doesn't get hit by Ward, that's
Oh,
another
no.
walk-in touchdown, and that adds more yards.
it's honestly
and another
that was a
touchdown.
smart penalty by him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So on that last interception that the Vikings had, me and Sam were yelling so much that a friend of ours who lives like 2 doors down heard us.
Yeah, he ran over to our room. We had a little celebration, and it was after quiet hours here, so hopefully we don't get, hopefully don't get written up or something.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, whoever it is, they're the Vikings fan that writes you up. Then they'll maybe be more understanding about this.
Well, our RA is next door and's a Packers fan, so
yeah, you better tell them about that.
He's had a rough week.
yeah.
So that's that. Hard to believe Kirk Cousins. Well, maybe not, but I mean, he had 378 yards tonight.
He shredded,
actually
tore apart that.
I didn't realize he had that many yards.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I was going through Kirk Cousins' best games, or like I was looking through his stats of all his games with Minnesota, and I think this one's probably at least top 5, if not top 3.
And it happened on prime time too.
And it happened on Monday night.
Not even the new nightmare.
3rd win on Monday night with the Vikings now, after the narrative was he could not win up. I'm so glad that narrative's gone. Oh my gosh, I hate it. Hated
Thank you, Kirk Cousins. We love you.
He beat the 49ers in prime time. It's a Vikings move.
Even though I advocated
I wonder if he has 3 words he'd like to share with everyone.
I bet. Even though I advocated for a Kirk Cousins trade just a couple weeks ago, I'm very proud that happened.
I think the Vikings have just become – I don't think they're going to be sellers. But again, I think you have to wait until next week to kind of see what the direction the team is. But if you can beat the 49ers, you kind of have something there.
I'm very thankful that the trade deadline is next Tuesday and not this week Tuesday.
Yes.
Because I wanted to see how next week plays out before anything happens.
Very true.
We'll see.
That's a good thing right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Overall, in my opinion, the Vikings defense got cooked by Brock Purdy, but that was just what I thought. Other than the Cam Bynum picks, I thought Brock Purdy, for the most part, did a good job passing, and he did a really good job running too. So, and there's a reason why I noticed his rushing. I have accused him of being a systems quarterback and just being really good because the Niners are good. But with how well he was moving around and making different plays, I thought at least sometimes I felt he proved me wrong a little bit tonight. But that was just my opinion on that.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Joel.
I was just going to say there was a 3rd and 6 where he was getting pressured and he threw across his body. Every quarterback coach was like, what are you doing? Because I was watching the Manning cast because that's the elite way to watch Monday Night Football.
No, it's
both
not.
Payne,
No, it's not.
Hills
You're wrong.
And Payne and Eli.
Wrong.
I'll give it to you if it's not a Vikings game, I will 100% watch that Manning cast. It's amazing.
I have never watched Manning cast before.
I'd rather watch that over than Joe Buck, but that's another discussion.
Unpopular opinion. I think that the Mannings are annoying.
Ooh. I don't know. I've heard of Vikings fans that will mute the TV and then turn on Paul Allen in the back.
I couldn't do that.
I should have.
I think that's something I should try.
Yeah.
All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're all gonna go around we're gonna share our opinions on Joe Buck and Paul Allen as well, and the Mannings. I'm gonna start the Mannings. I have very little experience with them, but they seem kind of not that funny in my opinion. But that's just me. Joe Buck, I do like. I will listen to Joe Buck call a game, and I will be entertained, contrary to a lot of people. And Paul Allen, I personally can't stand. He's too much of a homer for me. I can't deal with him. But that's my opinion on those.
Oh my Joel.
Am I allowed to go next, or
yeah,
anyone?
Well, if you're a Vikings radio announcer, I sure hope you root for the Vikings.
Okay,
That's the only thing I'd have to say about Paul Allen.
I'm not saying he's bad at his job. He does great at his job. I just personally am not a fan of him, and that's just me.
He'll always be the GOAT just for how he called that Colts-Vikings game. Those calls are legendary. I see him on Instagram all the time. But I think Joe Buck isn't as bad as people make him out to be. A preference, though, of mine is I'd prefer the Manning brothers over Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. I feel like you have to throw Troy Aikman in there, too, if you're talking about a broadcast.
That's fair.
Color commentators do the one good thing, state the obvious. Like silent reporters. Stand there, look good, say the obvious things. Boom, done. Get a paycheck. But I will give you this, though. The Mannings aren't comedic funny. They're athlete funny. If you kind of understand what I'm trying to say.
I do. I get it.
Because they're not Dave Chappelle. They're not Bill Burr. But for athletes, like Tom Brady, too. I mean, I don't like him as a player, but he's kind of funny. I'll give him that. For an athlete.
Yeah, I'll go next. So, Paul Allen, I will say his Colts, clips and reels on Instagram, those are legendary, right? Mm-hmm. Love those, okay? That's the only experience I have with him, though. I've never listened to him otherwise. With Joe Buck, I think that he's an excellent announcer. I think that he's very unbiased and gets really excited for every big play. So
I can't tell the satire.
The look on Matt's face.
You had me until you talked about excitement. I was like, okay, now I know he's joking.
He was excited for the Jordan Addison touchdown, the second one.
Very excited. And excited for both Cam Bynum interceptions.
Yeah.
Okay. And then who was the third one again?
Manningcast.
Oh, annoying. Next.
See, I have never truly watched the Manningcast yet. I've seen clips of it. Seems all right. Paul Allen, that can be some good commentary. I've listened to him a couple times on the way home from like grandparents. If we're just on the road, we'll be listening to the game. But yeah, and then I don't remember the third guy.
Joe Buck.
I don't know too much about him.
For me, I'm gonna start with Joe Buck. I think up until he called the Minneapolis Miracle in 2017, I could not stand him. Now
he's gotten better over time, I'll say.
As I've gotten older, and as I've watched more and more football, I've come to respect Joe Buck. I think there are definitely better announcers. I think Jim Nantz and Tony Romo are the best commentating crew.
Not Tony Romo, but Jim Nantz is.
That's true. Jim Nantz is honestly probably my favorite commentator of all time. Listening to him, March Madness, called golf, all that stuff. But that's a completely different topic. The Manningcast, as someone who loves kind of the X's and O's of football and different personnel groups, the two former quarterbacks, I love watching just like what they have to say and then picking each other's brains on Monday. It's something I absolutely love. And PA is the best in the business, hands down. I love PA. So I mean, he's probably my favorite play-by-play broadcaster like of all time on the radio. There's no one better than PA, and his call the Minneapolis Miracle is pretty much one of the best sports calls I have ever heard.
I mean, PA's got his little binoculars out watching the game.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's invested, and that's all you would want.
Yep.
In a radio guy. And I'll say this one more thing about Joe Buck: he'll never be as good as his dad.
No, Jack was really good. Even watching
Jack is
old sports podcasts. There's a crazy story about that too. Joe Buck was supposed to call a World Series game. I believe it was the Cardinals Rangers in 2011, and his dad died that day, and he still called the game that night. It was crazy. Wow. He said that's his dad told him to go call the game right before he died. So
that's
a really cool story about Joe Buck that I actually just watched on YouTube a few weeks ago. So
if there's a Joe Buck documentary, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna watch it.
I think it wasn't an interview, but I'm not positive.
They better make a documentary eventually.
I mean,
about
as a
him.
Cardinals fan, I love that Game 6 calls, so
I
adds a
know.
little more, makes it a little more special.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody else got thoughts on the game this past
No.
week? All right. And by this past week, that literally means like an hour ago. But now we're going to keep it going. I suppose we can probably move into looking at the spreadsheet and stuff. All right, let's do it. We're going to start with predictions. We're going to look at what's come off, and then we will get into the new ones next on Wednesday when we film the normal episode. Also, after we end it, but before you guys leave, I've a time update on Wednesday, so remind me. All right. I said the Dolphins would score at least 24. They put up 17. I said Jordan Addison will not have a receiving touchdown against San Fran. I could not have been any more wrong on that. And then I said the Niners would beat the Vikings by 5 points or less. I should have just said the game will be decided by 5 points or less. But that was my fault, and I will accept the L. Sam Rip said Greg Joseph would miss at least one field goal against the Niners. Anything you want to say about that?
You know, I wish I wasn't right.
They won, though, so it's not that big of a deal, but...
They won, but I wish I wasn't right.
Mm-hmm. I think we were all just hoping that they would miss no field goals and just that extra point at the beginning of the game. But that wasn't the case, unfortunately. He also said the Steelers defense would have at least 2 turnovers against the Rams. He also said Sam Laporta would have at least 1 touchdown against the Ravens. Neither of those happened. This one hasn't come up. Sorry, was someone saying something?
No.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't tell if someone was. Big Lou, this one hasn't come off, but we're going to take it off because it's fair to say it won't happen. He said Justin Jefferson would have at least 2,000 receiving yards this year. That will not be happening.
Yeah, that's safe to take off.
Matt said TJ Hawk will not have a drop, and according to all of our recollections, there was none. He also said the 49ers would have at least 200 rushing yards as a team against the Vikings. They had only 65.
That was shocking because the Bears ran all over the Vikings last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that brings us over here. That's all of our records. Sam and Matt are doing really good. Me and Big Lou are not. Believe it or not. Especially me.
But I have a lot of predictions still out there yet, too.
Yeah, you do. Because you put all yours at season end.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of us have season end ones, but still.
Then you could probably write out the Vikings losing in the NFC Championship one.
Hey, it's not over till it's over. That one we'll leave for now. Those were our game picks this week. We all had terrible weeks, is the update. Sam O had a good one, but everyone else was awful.
Oh, I did have a good week.
Matt,
there were a lot of
layups.
layups.
Same record as Sam. Just pointing that out.
There was a lot of layups that just didn't happen. A lot of check down games that were just upsets.
7 and 5.
Yeah, you guys both had 7, right? What? Me and Sam had what? 6?
You guys had
only had 5.
Rough week.
I was terrible.
I'm happy I got the Bears game correct.
I'm in a huge slump right now. I had a terrible week last week too. Well, actually, not really in the grand scheme, but you guys just had better weeks.
Yeah.
So those are our percentages. Sam is on top pretty clearly. And then everyone, the other 3 of us are just kind of clumped all together. And on Wednesday, we'll talk about the Vikings game on Sunday in Green Bay against the Packers. And then we'll make more predictions and we will do more game picks. And yeah, so that's kind of that. Any last thoughts from anyone about Vikings game this week, Vikings game next week? Joe Buck, different play-by-play guys.
No, just keep hope alive. Not over till it's over.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stay as optimistic as I can. So
I'll try.
We saw the spark today. Let's just hope it's enough to start the fire.
Lewis Seen is not a bust.
Lewis Seen is a bust. He was a healthy scratch again. That's awful.
There's no excuse at this point. There was at least one play in that game where the Vikings had 4 safeties on the field. And the 4 safeties were Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, and Theo Jackson. Now, what that tells me is that right now the Vikings think Theo Jackson is better than Lewis Cine. And Theo Jackson was, I think he was a UDFA a few years ago, or he came over in free agency from another team. I mean, I didn't even expect him to make the roster this year. The fact that he's playing over Lewis Cine is, I still don't think Cine's a bust yet, but I mean, we're starting to have to maybe have that conversation.
He's a bust.
I will say, though, Metellus is playing a lot of like a dime or like an extra linebacker almost.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they'll have Hicks and they'll have Metellus instead of Pace every now and again. And on that specific play you're talking about, Theo Jackson was playing the nickel position. He was playing in the slot. So really, those positions could have been filled by backers or corners even.
Yes.
So are they thinking that, Lewis Cine is worse than those two guys? Not necessarily, but he's definitely more of a deep safety versus a versatile safety.
Mm-hmm. And I think, if this really is Harrison Smith's last year in purple, which there's a very, very good chance that is the case, I think Cine is going to get a shot in training camp this next year. Just really kind of show what he's got, but who knows? I mean, with the draft, free agency, he could be replaced very quickly. So we'll see how it pans out.
If they tried trading Lewis Cine, what could they get for him? I wonder that now.
Honestly,
a wet paper napkin.
Well, looking at, I mean, so
Sandwich.
Kwesi, so we've seen Kwesi make moves for guys like Cine. I mean, he traded for Ross Blacklock, he traded for Jalen Reagor, all these guys who were day one, early day two picks. And I think, I mean, you could honestly, just because of his draft pedigree, I think you might be able to get like a 5th round pick or something like that for him. And I wouldn't be ready to do that just yet, but
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't go that far. He's a bust, but I wouldn't go that far with it.
But yeah.
Matt, anything you want to say about Jalen Reagor since he's your guy?
New England might need help at receiver. I'd give him a chance.
Or they can just take N'Keal Harry back and the Vikings take Jalen Reagor back.
N'Keal Harry would have came in if Addison was out long term.
But there was another play. The Vikings came out in 13 personnel, 3 tight ends, 1 running back, and the sole receiver was N'Keal Harry. That was another interesting look I saw out of the Vikings. I can't remember which play it was. It was a handoff to Akers.
Yep, that was right after Addison had a nice catch.
Yeah, so that's another interesting thing.
Before we close it, we should talk about Cam Akers because I thought he had a great game today too.
I like how they used him more, but in the second half, it seemed like both running backs couldn't get anything going. Where they both had losses, they both had some decent games, but overall it just seemed like it wasn't very good running.
Yep.
Well, I mean, our run game as a whole is completely non-existent. I don't really think it matters on who the running back is. They're both really ineffective. There's nothing that they've been able to do, so it's just sad.
I do like how they switch them out to kind of keep them fresh, but it seems like the first play that after they switch them will be like the best play of like them being in for a time period, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's another question that the Vikings could address in the draft. I mean, we've seen guys like Isaiah Pacheco who get drafted later and they end up, becoming starters. And while I don't believe you should spend a 1st-round pick on a running back, I mean, there are definitely some gems in the draft, especially that can kind of come off the top of my head this year. Just there's some running backs in college that are going to be day 2 or day 3 picks that could probably be very good running backs in the NFL. So I don't know, just something to think about for the future, because this running back situation, if it is not going to work out long term as of right now. So
I think we need to fix our O-line before moving on to running backs.
I thought the O-line has been getting better every single week, I believe.
Pass, yes, but their run blocks are kind of poor.
I think I don't think the run backing has been horrible. I think KOC needs to do a better job of scheming, using different kinds of motions to get these guys involved, to get the run game involved. And according to PFF, they do have a solid run game. So I mean, that could just be that could just be on paper, and the eye test doesn't agree with that. I think it's a little bit of both.
I'll be honest, I wasn't watching the whole football the whole game, but there's one nice play that Dalton Reisner made that I noticed, and I specifically noted, man, that was a nice play from Reisner.
I think I know which play you're talking about.
It was toward the beginning of the game, I think.
Yep. Yeah, you had like a nice block down
Yeah,
there.
that's what I was thinking of.
Mhm.
Wish I remembered exactly kind of how it went, but I don't anymore. But I remember thinking to myself, that was a nice play there from Dalton Reisner. So good that he got on the field. I like that.
Yeah, and I thought overall he had a solid game. I mean, the Vikings didn't allow a sack. There was one play where I can't remember who it was. One of their interior guys just blew past Ed Ingram, but that was really the only one that I really noticed. I don't know. That's the one play I noticed where the O-line got burned, and I think it was a run. I can't remember, but that's the one play I remember where the line just got burned. But other than that, I mean, I didn't see too many other bad pass blocking plays, especially.
There was one where Cousins almost got sacked. I don't know how he didn't get sacked, but somehow managed to make a completion.
That was
again, like I said, I wasn't watching super like the in-depth football, but I also did not notice any dumb Jordan Addison blocks like I do sometimes. I didn't catch any this time.
Yeah,
but
of course he was more so playing that wide receiver 1 role. So
yeah, not as much working on it.
Yeah.
He's playing a lot more on the outside
Yes.
also, so that might have contributed to it.
But. So yeah, then you like by the time his guy gets to the pile, usually game or the play's over. So.
All right. Unless anyone else got any last thoughts before we pick this up again on Wednesday. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Again, we will see you guys on Wednesday, and we'll take a look into the Vikings game against the Packers on Sunday of next week. Other than that, hope you guys enjoy the night. Soak in this victory that nobody thought was going to happen, but surprises happen sometimes, and that's what happened tonight. So have a good night, everybody. Peace out, and as always, SKOL Vikings. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.